My early influence in photography was Roman Wiśniak, which was a Polish-Jewish photographer who photographed in ghetto in Warsaw, and Polish photographer Buchak, who most of it was architectural photographer. But when I come to United States, Ansel, Brad Weston, Edward Weston, and some of the Brad, I really start enjoying his kind of simple subject, abstract subject, which was very missing with Ansel work. It was very only few. I love Ansel work too, and Edward, but Brad got this idea of I don't know was it conscious or unconscious, but then when I spent some time on the wetland and weather and clouds never cooperated, I was looking for some quiet, simple subject. And I still remember that Brad did a couple Thule shots, very abstract. I didn't know what it was even, you know. So maybe conscious or unconscious, I start in my kind of time, downtime, start photographing Thule everywhere I go, every country, for like 20 years. And most of them, I never release it. I released this one and actually sold like all 200 edition very quickly. And I was like, whoa, people appreciate whatever I appreciate, you know? So I started releasing all these very abstract images and then doing that in China, Poland, Italy, everywhere I go. And they almost could be anywhere, but it's something to do and sometimes concentrate and slow down my approach to photography. Sometimes I know and sometimes I'm surprised and sometimes take even 10 years before I figure out how to print the print. So it seems like a simple thing, but it is not. Your personal vision and approach to printing, it's so simple, but in other cases, so difficult to figure out how to do that. And sometimes depends on my feeling, how I feel. If I am, happy, exciting, prints come different. When I'm a little bit depressed or different mood, they come different too. So I usually, from beginning when there was that school that every print should look the same, there was like, I never paid attention. Every my prints is different, even today. They never come the same. And that was before digital era. And I was always right, that's what it is. You don't want to produce the same print. And I never write down number or note how to print. I always go fresh to that approach. That's only I know, and I think so I know well. And for me, I don't have nothing against digital photography. And I love shoot with iPhone, and I actually a year ago purchased digital camera, and sometimes occasionally I take it for fun. But for me, the silver print has some incredible quality, which can be matched even today with such advanced technology in digital to the silver print. I think so, like a living thing, the silver print is something magical about it. So that's all I know, and I stick with it. I have a respect for, churches, synagogue, a million people pray, they have a power, but the most free and exciting and inspire is being nature. Yeah. And I try to all the time, wherever I can, and the camera is a great excuse to be there for endless hours. So yeah, for me, escape from human chaos, noise, wetland, and riparian woodland is the perfect place to be. I mean, so you can do one thing in your life. You can't save whole world, so you want to do part of it. When I started, first interesting actually in the history of California, wetland, Pacific Flyway, and then going to all these preserve and fishing wildlife refuges. And some of them, it's very few places you access. So I figure I'll work with them, helping restore, be volunteer in those places, open door to me photograph. And that's how I did. Not purely, to get access to places, but it was quite a bit satisfaction, plant, a couple, 3,000-4,000 oaks, and you can go today and see them. So it was both, learning about history, knowing the place, and then photograph, and kind of both benefits. Okay, this photograph is Two-Hearted Oak title. It was done probably about 20 years ago. I call Two-Hearted Oak because this looked like two oaks grow together, which kind of symbolize, for me, some kind of love forever, if such a thing exists. The area usually is flooded, and the valley oaks likes that kind of environmental condition, and they extremely old. Also, before our civilization, there was an Indian burial ground too, so has very powerful spiritual feeling where I was there. I spent almost 2-3 years going the same place to photograph to get the right lighting, right condition. And it happened this day. I remember like today, it was very difficult to photograph oaks, almost like architecture, has to have very wide angle to approach the subject. But this is the place where I love to go and spend some time and quiet, kind of meditative quality. Also, what was interesting is on the valley oak, there's a wasp who inject the leaves and create galls. And I wasn't aware of that before they make pyro, which I use for developing the film. Chinese used to use this for producing developer and stain, most of it stain, not developer. So from beginning for pyro, a lot of photographers used the galls and the dust was producing kind of beautiful golden tone, which they stain negative. So how connected, we sometimes not aware how we connected to nature and photography. So it was an interesting place to learn. Funny is in Nature Conservancy, they have always requests go, where's the Two-Hearted Oak to go to it? And the funny thing was, last time with Brian, I took him canoeing on the Consumeness, and I know where I took the photograph, and I could not figure out which oak was this oak, because the lighting creates such an interesting condition that I could not figure out which oak there was. So maybe it's a phantom oak. Yeah. And it's an interesting thing because it's, it's a traditional, it's a tree. So I sent one to my gallery owner in LA, and she called me back and said, why you send me tree? Who will buy a tree? I said, it's not tree, it's a valley oak. And a week later, she said, well, we sold it. Could you send me more? I usually try go places where people don't go, unknown places. I love that idea. Bring something to attention who nobody did before. It's more challenging. Like, Central Valley, which actually Ansel Adams said you cannot make good photograph in the Central Valley. He was quoting, actually. He said something worse than that about the Central Valley. So I kind of prove him wrong. You can make everywhere good photograph. I usually don't like to talk about my photograph. I think that I have more say when people look at my photograph. But sometimes you make photograph and story behind it's helpful. But in this case, you don't need story. It's just magnificent Mount Shasta reflecting in a peaceful wetland near my home. So this is every day my view from my home is so close. And also have that wonderful, the softness of Tule and the harshness of the majestic mountain of Mount Shasta. And it's home, and it's peaceful and beautiful, and that's why I love living there. I compromised so many times in my life, all my jobs, that the one thing I never compromised is photography. I never did any commercial work for my photography. Even when I was starving, I was literally out of the money, but I refused to do it, yeah. And now, I showed this couple images to Tony Bennett, who is the ex-director of Eastman Kodak, and he said, this will be a great book. So now we're working all these images, and they will be published, actually book coming in a couple months. And so this simple exercise come to big project, and I am probably extremely happy with that book. It'll be probably the first book my heart is in it, so I'm very excited. To be king of China photography, it is actually true. No, I'm not, but I went down there, I was invited a couple of times for shows in China, and one of the minister culture gave me a certificate, I'm king of photography of China, which was, and come with like 1 pound of silver, fancy medal and stuff. And I was jokingly say, if any land come with that, but they didn't laugh. They say, no, that's it. Yeah, what does it say here? Well, I don't read Chinese, but say, we have decided to grant you the king of photography. Therefore, this certificate is offered. Power of image China, and all the stamps, and like in the communists, you have to have always stamp. It's wonderful, I am also inspired how seriously they treat photography. And even communist government, they appreciate art, even sometimes more than here. They quite a bit supportive of artists. And so there is always possibility, look at other country different way. They quite a bit appreciate, somebody appreciate art, there will be changes in that country for sure, yeah. The biggest joy of my photography is when I receive letter from students from Central Valley, how they change, look at their own place where they live, They always thought that you have to go somewhere like Yosemite or Carmel to photograph, they don't see their own background, and how they became change and see their own place different eyes, I think that was probably the biggest reward. Thank you for inviting me. I am such an honor to be in this beautiful building and be in Carmel, where the beginning of photography and history is so strong. I am so honored and appreciate having a show here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks, Roman.